This episode of the Leap Forward podcast is brought to you by Bridge LT, leaders in conversational learning and innovation. Through AI role plays, technical simulators, and comprehensive training programs, Bridge LT is revolutionizing the future of corporate and enterprise education.
In this episode of Leap Forward, Gareth Thomas, founder of TrackBack, shares his journey from telemarketer to tech entrepreneur in the automotive lead management space. He reveals startling industry gaps, like only 2% of test drive leads being followed up by phone, and how his platform drives conversion through speed, quality, and empathy. Gareth also discusses the role of AI, the irreplaceable value of human connection, and why company culture is his top priority. So welcome to this edition of Leap Forward. Gareth Thomas from TrackBack. Gareth, thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem.
So look, let's kick things off. Why don't you sort of give us a bit of an overview? What does TrackBack do, and what problem are you solving for clients?
So TrackBack is a technology company. We provide contact tracking services. So our clients are the automotive brands, and we track the follow-up of sales leads through their dealer network. And the goal is to ensure that leads are followed up properly, quickly, and high quality follow-up. And we think if we can measure that and we can provide actionable information, we can actually improve that process, create transparency in the sales process, which is difficult between a brand and a dealer network. And then that means we can improve lead conversion and hopefully the customer experience as well. So everyone should be a winner out of that. The problem it solves is really strangely, lead follow-up in the automotive sector is patchy. Mm-hmm. It is not consistent. I'll tell you a story. When we first started TrackBack, I went to see a car dealer. I won't tell you the brand. Went to see a car dealer. I spoke to the dealer principal and said, "Can you take me through your lead follow-up process?" And he said, "Yeah, absolutely. Go and talk to the lady sitting on reception. She runs that process, so she'll take you through it." So I went and sat next to the lady and I said, "Can you take me through the process?" She said, "Yes." She said, "Every half an hour, I log into this lead management system, and I look to see if we've got any leads." Brilliant. What do you do then? She said, "Well, if we've got a lead, I click the button that says we've actioned it." I said, "Okay, what do you do next?" She said, "Oh no, I don't do anything next." Well, do you give the lead to anyone to follow up? And she said no. So we're targeted to follow up leads within an hour by the brand. So we make sure we update the system. So we might get to that lead eventually, but we make sure we update the system within an hour. You would like to think that is a rare thing, but actually when we measure the lead follow-up, even today, we still see that. We still see leads aren't followed up, certainly not followed up quickly, particularly by phone. It's a lot easier by email, but particularly by phone. Dealers are inconsistent. Some are brilliant. Some are genuinely brilliant. Some use in-house contact centers or that they have processes with salespeople are brilliant. Others not so much. We've just done a mystery shop. We've only just started. We've got through 10 brands that aren't TrackBack brands. And we just put in test drive requests on the brand's website. And of those, put in about 100 across 10 brands. 2 of them were followed up within an hour by phone. So 2% of those leads were followed up by an hour by phone. That is worse actually than the last mystery shop we did, which is really, really disappointing. Now they were their emails were sent. There were personalized responses, but they weren't necessarily followed up with it but by telephone. And I think that's important. I still think telephone's really important, especially for things like test drive responses when you're trying to get someone into the dealership to make an appointment and to really engage with the customer. So we really focus on that with our clients. Our clients target their dealers to follow up sometimes in half an hour. Mm-hmm. They get up to kind of 90% telephone follow-up and above within half an hour or within an hour. So it really creates a competitive advantage for our clients. But really, there shouldn't be a track back. There
You're,
really shouldn't, because leads should be being followed up, and that shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be something that manufacturers need to worry about, or dealers need to worry about. Because quite often the dealers themselves are pretty sure those leads are being followed up properly.
yeah, I was thinking that I mean, if I was the CEO of a manufacturer dealership and I was listening to this kind of conversation, I'd be sort of like, I'd need to sit down, But when you talk about that sort of 90% sort of number and the 2% of the 100 from the mystery, what is the kind of the impact of following up within that sort of time frame on then eventually a sale?
Yeah, well, we can. I mean, we track to appointment rather than
Got it?
sale, but our clients obviously track through to sale. Based on what we track, we know that we can prove that if you follow up quickly, so if you follow up within 15 minutes, you're much more likely to make an appointment than even if it takes an hour. Um, or actually, in the first place, much more likely to make contact. So we measure that across first hour, second hour, 24 hours, 48 hours, and you can see that contact rate drop off for the contact. And you can, because we measure outcomes as well based on dealer feedback on the lead. So did they make an appointment? Is there no sales opportunity? You can see those lines changing. So the appointment line starts top left, and it is a really high appointment rate within the first hour, and gradually drops off over time, and the no sales opportunity goes up, and they meet somewhere about 2 days and go across. And it's the same picture for every brand. Every brand all over Europe. We work all over Europe with brands. Nothing's different. It's exactly the same.
It's fascinating. Look, I think we're going to get into the weeds of this a little bit more as this conversation goes on. But let's just kind of rewind for a sec, because I just want to talk about you for a bit, if that's all right. So,
Sure.
tell me a little bit about the sort of, I suppose, the journey today. What's been the path? What were the kind of real defining moments for you? And I guess it's always good for people to kind of be honest about things. And what were the kind of any missteps that you took along the way that taught you something invaluable?
Uh, I, I was fantastically unambitious when I started. When I left college, genuinely had no idea what I wanted to do. Needed to earn a bit of money,
Mm-hmm.
and so I joined a local CRM lead generation company as a telemarketer. And that company worked with a lot of car manufacturers. My initial job, I was phoning small businesses on behalf of Rover Cars to his early 90s. So you won't believe it. I know I don't look like I could be possibly that old, but it's early 90s. And we were creating leads for the dealers to follow up to try and sell small fleets. I was clueless, like everybody is, I think, when they go into their first job. Didn't take it very seriously, I guess, but then got promoted somehow to being a team leader. And being a team leader suddenly gave me responsibility for people. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about other people. And those people might have a mortgage, they might have kids, they might need to put food on the table. I was just happy-go-lucky 23-year-old or whatever I was. I started to take it really seriously. That changed how I approached work, and it was all about responsibility for other people. And I'd always had that. I played a lot of sport when I was young. I played a lot of rugby when I was young, and I was always captain of the rugby team. But I wasn't the best player, but by a long way. But I was captain of the rugby team for as I was growing up, and I guess I kind of had that innate leadership skills for the coaches to put me in that role. Because I was a team leader, I started talking to clients, and I really enjoyed that. And it was my natural, that's my natural habitat.
Mm-hmm.
So talking to clients, building relationships with people, it's where I'm most comfortable. It's what I most love doing. So I became an account manager, account director, client services director, basically running a large part of the company that I was involved in. That company merged with another company. It got taken over by another company. And yeah, I was in leadership roles, and I think, I mean, I can't remember specific missteps. There were a lot. There were a lot, and I think you realise pretty quickly that it's hard work, and you have to kind of leave your ego at the door a little bit. I've always felt that in my management roles, I kind of like to surround myself with brilliant people because they make me look a lot better, which is really good. Um, I learnt a lot from the companies I worked for about how I would choose to manage or how I thought I should manage, and also how I thought I didn't. And I probably learned as much about how I thought I shouldn't
Yeah.
as I did. I suppose it's true for everybody. I think we're going through, or most people going through their kind of working life. There are things you see and you kind of go, actually, that's not me. So, for example, I had a manager who actively brought conflict into the workplace. So his view was that actually conflict what was good. That it kept people on their toes, kept people on edge. It was a productive thing, which I don't agree with now. And so well, actually, I can see what he's doing now. I can see his idea, and we spoke about it a lot,
Hmm.
but it's not how I do it. So yeah, I think that all those things happened. At that point, a guy called Jerry Horwood. Jerry Horwood used to own a company called Second Bite. They were a digital marketing agency, digital agency that worked for automotive brands in the used car field. And Jerry had sold Second Bite to Trade and Media Group, but he had invented TrackBack.
Hmm.
He invented this product in his head, and I'd known Jerry for years. We had the same clients, and he invented TrackBack. He employed a guy called James Davenport, who is still our technical director at TrackBack. And James built a TrackBack, a working version of it. And they came to see me at my old company. I was client services director because I had lots of automotive brands. We were running lots of lead management, lead generation projects. That's all I've kind of done in my life is lead management for automotive. It's really sad when I say that. It's all I've done. And they presented TrackBack to me and they presented it, and I thought it was a rubbish idea. That's why Jerry's a brilliant entrepreneur. So I was kind of skeptical about whether it could work, and I think I kind of am naturally quite a bit of a skeptic
Yeah.
about things. I like to be convinced and prove, work through it and work out whether it's definitely going to work. But I kept talking to Jerry, looking at what it was, thinking about it in my head, and within a kind of 6 months, Jerry had asked me to come on board and help run TrackBack, and I took over that role. So that was in 2008.
That's amazing. And when you were having those conversations with him, were you with a cynical kind of sort of hat on, were you sort of was he convincing you? Were you helping him kind of almost iterate the product and the proposition? Was it a bit of both?
It was
Yeah.
both. It was that kind of. I remember years ago being a training session and people talking about Walt Disney and blue sky thinking and the skeptic and the dreamer, and I think Jerry's probably the dreamer and I'm the skeptic.
Got it.
But between those two, it kind of creates
It's magic, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and you need a balance. You always need a balance, and we have that. Today, I when in our teams within TrackBack, it's always about getting the right balance of people getting those skills that I don't have, or the skills that I can add to something else. So I think it was a bit of both. I think it was me perhaps tempering a little bit, or making the product more fit for real life, and how clients would react more positively to it. But it's in essence, TrackBack is still exactly the product that Jerry came in and showed me in 2007.
That's really interesting because I think you nailed, I got it immediately when you said, this is the problem we solve at the beginning. And obviously that doesn't change. Although in some ways, I love the point around, one day we hope we won't exist because there will no longer be a need.
Well, I'm not sure.
But I don't, not those exact words. But,
we shouldn't really.
But you shouldn't exist, right? But I think obviously you do, and we all know that that's true for many great businesses, in a way. And but obviously, whilst the kind of the idea and the principle kind of has remained, true and solid and the same. Obviously, the world's moved on massively since the early 90s, right? And how have kind of customer expectations shifted? And that customer can be obviously the end customer, but obviously your customer as well.
Yeah, that's a good question. If we talk about the end customer, I'm not sure. I'm not sure the end customer's expectations have shifted
Hmm.
a great deal, if I'm honest. I think there are expectations about being followed up quickly. I think there are expectations about information being available in digitally as well as in other forms. I think everyone expects everything basically quicker.
Hmm.
Um, but the actual expectations of a customer are pretty much the same. So we track this, right? So we track the customer feedback on the follow up of dealers to customers. Okay, so we know what they value. So and there's three things. There's a holy trinity of lead follow up, right? There's three things. They value a good salesperson attitude. That's the thing they value the most out of any communication. A good, positive salesperson attitude. Someone who's helpful, someone who's engaged, someone who actually wants to talk to them and wants to engage on what is actually, let's face it, it's a complex, expensive sale. It's a big thing for
Yeah.
people to buy, right? Second thing is knowledgeable salesperson, right? So they've got to be able to. It's no good being enthusiastic if you don't know anything and you can't answer any questions. So that's just annoying. So that's really important, and that lends itself to sort of conversations about whether salespeople should follow up leads, whether contact centers should follow up leads, and the debates around that. And lastly, speed. They want to be followed up quickly. So it's those three things. If you can get those three things right from a customer, and we're talking about my area of expertise, which is that lead follow up side of things, um, then you're doing a good job. Is that different from it's ever been in the past? Apart from maybe they expect more speed, I think the rest of it they've always expected. They've always expected those things. And equally, what they hate is is unsurprising. Well, is largely the opposite. They hate not being followed up. They hate not being spoken to. They hate being followed up by people who are disinterested in them as a lead. And that does happen quite a lot. So it's not just when we do our tracking, it's not just about did a phone call happen. Also, we track the quality of those communications as well, because that's really, really important. And the last one they hate is being told you're going to do something and not doing it. And so, yes, I'll get you a quote by Tuesday or whatever it might be. And that not happening, the customers find that enormously frustrating. Is that really different? That different from how that's? I'm not sure. I suspect not. There are different ways of doing things, but those expectations from a customer, I suspect, are similar. Our clients, I think that's a different matter.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely understand that that technology's got to develop. So methods of communication are changing. So we can't just track phone calls. We track emails. We track WhatsApp communications, instant messaging, etc. We're not we probably started off strictly as a measurement tool as a quantitative measurements tool. We do an awful lot of quality now. We do an awful lot of call analysis, email analysis. We ask customers what they thought and get feedback on that. So we're looking at the quality of follow up as well, which is really important. We also give engagement tools to dealers to try and help them to contact people. So um, so just making sure that they can text people if they've followed them up and they want to do a text reminder or those kinds of things, sending out alerts to make sure they do things. So there's a variety of different tools that we've kind of developing and are continuing to develop. You can't stand still. You know yourself in technology. If you're standing still, you're going backwards. So it's really important for us to one of the things that differentiates TrackBack, I think, from our competitors, let's stop at our competitors, is our client relationships. So we work really hard at building our client relationships. And my role largely is client relationships. I'm still on a day-to-day basis on the front line of talking to customers. So if I think of myself as a player manager, really, and I kind of so I'm still very much on the front line of our business. I take control of 50% of our clients, and another director does another, and we have consultative trust. Well, what's the best word of putting it? We have a consultative, honest, pragmatic relationship built on trust, and we work really hard to build those relationships with clients. And what that means, we listen to our clients, and we understand what their pain points are. And we understand what they love about TrackBack, what they don't like about TrackBack, or sometimes it's not even about TrackBack. Sometimes it's about something completely different. But actually, can we help there? Is there something we can do that can help? And our product portfolio or upcoming roadmap, if you like, is kind of littered with client motivated developments because that's what the market's demanding. So we rarely sort of sit there and go, we're going to build this and foist it on our clients. It tends to be more client led. from that perspective. And that comes from having relationships and understanding the industry, understanding them, and realizing what will help them the most.
And on that point around what helps them the most, obviously, we talked a little bit about change already. Um, the market's been, under pressure in so many different ways in such a what feels like kind of concentrated kind of period of time, right?
Yeah.
So bring that to life for me a little bit. Like how are you able to kind of, help your clients move the needle? And what are those kind of things that they're kind of asking you to help them with?
I think that, I mean, you're right. Right. So yes, it is under pressure. All the brands we work with are under pressure in the market. It's a difficult market, and can't remember a time when anyone said it wasn't a difficult market. But certainly it has been for the last 7 or 8 years. It's been 6, 7 years. It's been difficult. So um, I think what a lot of clients are, if you think again specifically about what we do, so what a lot of clients have realized is that there are only so many leads you can generate that are good quality. So there used to be an equation that people would have where they would say, right, we convert X number of leads to sales. So actually, if we can produce this number of leads, we'll make this number of sales, right? And that includes the dealer leads and the manufacturer brand leads, etc. So we'll make this number of sales. So when the sales target goes up, the marketing people are challenged with generating more leads, because actually they will convert on the same basis that the leads they've already got convert. But that's not true, right? They don't convert because largely, I think, a lot of brands' lead conversion, lead generation is pretty good and pretty well honed, and they know what are the good quality leads and what aren't the good quality leads. And the dealers definitely know what the good quality leads are and what they aren't. And the more poor quality leads you throw at the top of the bucket, obviously the less conversion, but also the more frustrated dealers get and the more less likely you are to get engagement from a dealer. You ask a dealer to follow up a lead that's definitely not going to convert, they just get annoyed about it.
And then it kind of compounds,
And
right?
now then it compounds. So what our clients, so we talking to, probably one of our biggest clients, they'll say to me, we're not really going to generate any more leads. There's not any more we generate a lot of leads. There's not any more good quality leads we generate. We have to sweat every single lead that we produce. We have to work really hard to convert that lead. And what they ask us to do is to help them to do that. So our job becomes to say, right, okay, right, we're not just going to track this lead now. We're not going to see what the dealer's done with it. Well, let's see if we can help them contact it. Let's see if we can build in projects to reignite leads that haven't been contacted in the first place, for example, to make sure that we don't lose that potential sales opportunity. Let's get feedback on what's happened in that conversation from the customer and see if there's, for conversations that have gone badly, if there's anything we can do to resolve those, to turn those around. So we've introduced lots of products like that will help. So there's no wastage. That's what we're doing. We're stopping the leakage from the funnel, from the sales funnel, and it's not about more leads; it's about working them better.
Sort of going to link back to the point you made earlier about the kind of client sort of led kind of product roadmap, and I'm going to kind of apply kind of what's again one of those huge forces going on at the moment. Sort of going to have to use the word, I'm afraid, AI. But it's not just AI, right? It's just, we're just entering this sort of new technological kind of paradigm, I guess, in some ways. So tell me a little bit about, kind of what the most sort of exciting and useful kind of, developments of the TrackBack product, kind of that you've implemented recently that are sort of really moving the needle on in that way.
Well, it's further. Well, the one that's rolling out at the moment is tracking WhatsApp communications as well. So this, particularly in Southern Europe, for business follow up, this is becoming a really, really important thing. It's not as important for business follow up for sales and marketing in the UK. It is important for customer support and that kind of thing, but it's not used as broadly in the UK. But people are excited about it in the UK as well, and our UK clients are starting to talk to us about it. But certainly in Spain and Italy, it's a requirement. So that's a big one for us. So developing that, and also developing it delivering it in a way that is cost efficient, because most of the solutions are very expensive at the moment. So that's something that we've taken on as a challenge, and we'll be rolling out to our first client September, which is really exciting. With AI, it's quite an interesting one. AI gets talked about all the time by our clients, by everyone. Oh, can we just use AI? Let's do. What,
Great.
what, what exactly do you mean by that? We're starting to implement it within our product. So that's our second big kind of product pipeline is to introduce AI to some of our products, and really, it's going to start off by being introduced into our sort of quality analysis side of things, because we use people to do quality analysis, and that's brilliant. And we will always use people to do some quality analysis, because it's really, especially phone calls, it's very, very hard to analyze the quality of a phone call using AI. To be able to analyze it to the level of detail where every single phone call is 100% correct. So what it's great for is big sets of data to say, oh, I wonder what our customers are talking about at the moment. And you can use it there and say, well, actually, we've done 10,000 calls and the general consensus is X, Y, or Z. That's great. But actually, an individual score saying you scored 75% against the scoring matrix because you did this, and this in the call is actually quite hard to do by AI accurately. If you don't do it accurately, the dealers won't obviously support it. But it's easier to do with aspects of calls. So it's easier to do with sort of filtering of calls to see whether you need to analyze them at all. It's easier to do with compliance for finance, for example. So making sure calls are compliant. It's also easier to do with emails communication and analyzing those for the quality of email communication, which is another thing that you would think would be really good, email communication. But and some of it's brilliant. Some of it's really good. They use templates that look excellent, really professional. Some of it less so, a lot of it less so. Still lots of mistakes, lots of spelling mistakes. If they do using templates, sometimes they don't merge the data into the field, so you've got empty fields and things like that. So just things like that, just about adding quality to the customer communication. So we believe that from our perspective, they're the immediate areas where it's going to start to make a difference for us. It will always, I think, with AI, I think it will always exist on alongside people. I don't really see it as this thing that's going to take over everything. I kind of see it as another tool that's going to exist alongside the other ways that we work and the people involved. One area that is so there are AI companies springing up all the time, right? As you know, and AI automotive business, some of them really well funded, and with slightly different ideas about how they're going to be used. But one of the ways they are definitely being used in the automotive industry is to manage customer communication. So through WhatsApp and through email particularly, there are communications that are totally AI driven rather than person driven. And I've seen quite a few of these, and some of them are really impressive. Actually, the companies work really closely with the dealers. They understand how the dealers operate. There's a lot of information in there, and they can deal with quite a lot of the inquiries. So I can see how that is a really interesting advancement. I think I have yet to see it effectively done on the phone. There are still lots of pauses and things in conversations that happen. So I've yet to see that, although that is improving. And I still don't believe it takes away fully from the human interaction. I actually also think that we shouldn't be in a situation where we're having communications with customers that are AI communications, where the customer doesn't know it's an AI communication. And that is happening at the moment. You get people turning up at a dealership and they're looking for Debbie, who they've been having a conversation with for the last week about an appointment, and Debbie doesn't exist. I don't see any real reason why you wouldn't tell people that's an AI communication, and give them the option to say, "Hey, do you want to carry on with this? Do you want to talk to a person?" But actually, all that aside, that's a really interesting area for us. It's something that we kind of looking at that, think, yeah, that's actually quite. I can see how that will add to the communication mix, and done properly is a really valuable tool. So yeah,
I think that's really good to hear. I love the point around sort of, you're focusing on the kind of the benefits of it, whilst caveating that with the need for the human kind of touch. And I know on a good day, I'm very kind of positive about kind of AI unlocking new value,
yeah,
new services, new products, and it, that obviously is going to kind of require, I suppose, as well, a lot of thinking, around the edges of that, around, regulation and privacy and compliance and so forth. But the human side is critical. And just as we were sitting down here, we were talking about your business and the fact that you operate a very hybrid style kind of way of working, and I suppose linked to that, let's talk a little bit about skills and talent.
Okay.
So what are the new skills that you sort of see are most in demand now at TrackBack? And how are you future proofing your team? In such a dynamic future and fast moving environment.
Yeah, I don't know if I am. I'm trying to.
It's the honest, well, yeah.
I think that are they new? Again, I go back to is it really new? I think from a track back perspective, I think the technical skills that that are required from a developer. I'm not a technical person. My wife thinks it's amazing that I'm MD of a technology company. I'm a complete Luddite when it comes to technology, but I know what it does and what it delivers. So from a technology perspective, I think this, that we have a specific skill set that we look for. I think we always know that we're going to have to do quite a lot of training when we bring people in to get them to a place where they can actually add proper value. Even if you're actually quite experienced developer, we always know that. I don't know if that's because we're using slightly different tools from other people, or whether that's the same for every company. I don't know the answer. I think from our perspective, do you know the biggest struggle we're having at the moment for recruitment is for account management? So it's not the technical side, it's the customer facing side. And I think I mentioned before that we focus really heavily on account management and building those relationships with clients. We have a small number of high value clients. There aren't that many brands, and so and those relationships are really, really important to us. Our account management is not about sales. It's about obviously retention. It's about working with those clients. We want those clients to be repeat clients and come back year after year after year after year, which is what is happening to us at the moment, which is really good. And they do that because they value the product, because we help them to get the best out of the product. So we don't just leave them to say, "Here's TrackBack, get on with it." We work really close with them to try and make sure they get the best out of it. So it's not a sales target for those guys. And actually, I think automotive account management is another word for sales largely. And actually, when you're recruiting in that, you look at the CVs you get, and they're sales. They're sales CVs. In fact, we were actually told by a recruitment consultant quite recently we didn't understand account management. and actually, do you know what? From their perspective, that might be true.
Yeah.
But my vision of it,
Yeah.
my vision of building those relationships and those mutually beneficial relationships and partnerships, really.
Yeah. And you said the word consultative earlier, which I think is bang on personally.
Yeah. And that's where we need to be. And being able to recruit into someone who's used to doing that is with automotive experience, and it's a challenge. We're finding that quite difficult at the moment. We're finding that very difficult at the moment.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because in a sense, when we've grown up on this sort of concept of the fact that that getting a job as a lawyer, getting a job as an accountant, getting a job as a et cetera, those jobs now have almost flipped to being kind of in some way at the most risk of being radically kind of reinvented through technology.
Yeah.
And those skills that sort of you couldn't for the life of you find anywhere to learn are now becoming, either the critical gaps. And that, I think, is a really interesting kind of place to be, right? How do you teach someone to be a great listener or empathetic or being able to kind of, convert a need into a product or a feature and talk to the...
Empathetic is a great word. That's a great word for account manager. I do a thing in interviews where I shouldn't probably say this because anyone coming for an interview will know, but I do a thing in interviews where I kind of write a load of words on yellow stickies and stick them on the wall, and their characteristics. And I just ask someone to put them in order of importance of why for the role that they're going to be in. And empathetic's one that comes a lot in account management. There's not a right answer. There's just I'm interested in the way people's minds works and how they explain how they come to their decision, how they explain it. But when I say there's not a right answer, empathetic needs to be near the top if you're an account manager. It really, I think it does. I think that's really important, and I don't think you can teach that. I think there are some things that you can teach. You can learn about the automotive industry. You can learn automotive experience. You can definitely learn about trackback. No one's born knowing what trackback does. Um, you can learn about technology, but being able to be empathetic, being likable for an account manager is a ridiculous. It's not a trait. It's no one's fault. It's not. You haven't, but you just like that's so important. It really is. So yeah, we kind of those. How do you teach it? I'm not sure you teach empathy. I don't think you can. I think you can teach the other things, but that's a core thing that people have either got or they haven't.
I mean, so what did you say? Was it 2008?
I joined in 2008. Yeah. So, and there was just James and I at the time. There were two of us at the time. There's about 100 of us now.
That's incredible. So look, how over that time frame and that that incredible journey to 100 or so, how do you maintain that kind of quality and culture?
So culture, once I realised I was actually being tasked with running a company, that I got over the shock of the situation. What that culture was going to be like was the most important thing for me. I kind of thought a lot about what I liked about what I'd done before, what I didn't like, and what I wanted to do. And I realised really quickly that it's not rocket science. I realised I wanted to want to come to work.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to enjoy where I worked. That's not. I'm very happy to work really hard. I know it's going to be stressful, but overall, I wanted to surround myself with like-minded people who we call them trackbackers. It's rubbish. We call them trackbackers. We call them, people who are curious, who aren't rigid about how they about what they're going to do. We know we're a small business, or we're growing into a medium-sized business, but we've been a small business. We know we need to be flexible. We know we're going to change. We know things are going to be different one day to the next. We engage everybody from the way the culture kind of works. I don't think we've always got it right, but I think certainly probably since COVID we have. We engage everybody at every level in the business with the clients. That's really important. We're really client focused. And it's not just the account management team that's client focused. Everybody's client focused. Almost everyone in the company talks to clients. Well, there's no reason why anyone wouldn't. Clients come into our office, they go around, they're talking to the developers, they change to the help desk team, the finance team if they've questions about invoices, and they know all the people within TrackBack. We're not a huge organization. They feel like they use the word family-like when they come in. I'm not sure whether that's a compliment or not. They mean it as
in a positive way.
compliment.
Yeah. Rather than my family. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that focus has been really on culture, on understanding the culture. So we're really kind of strict with our recruitment. We work really hard, not just on what skills that person's got, but whether they're going to add to the culture of the business. If you take and as you grow, that gets harder because that's the biggest challenge. Actually, that's what we're challenged with now. My biggest challenge today is how do we grow TrackBack and keep the culture that we love having at the company, and we don't get to the point where people are miserable on Sunday nights. They've got to go to work on a Monday, and those things. No one wants to be in that environment. So we've worked quite hard on that as a leadership team. We've developed our HR side of our company quite a lot, which is really helpful. And we've tried to put in procedures around what we were kind of doing naturally to make it repeatable. That's without making us too bureaucratic. Because one of the key things about TrackBack is we're not particularly bureaucratic and we're very flat structure. There's very little hierarchy, and we try and be as flexible and fluid as we possibly can be. And our clients really value that. So yeah, it's a sort of balancing act. There is a kind of, I don't know if you've seen the New Zealand rugby team documentary. I don't know if that's I'm a rugby fanatic, so you can be the best player in the world, but if you're toxic, you're not welcome. And that is true of track back. We cannot, I won't have that kind. It causes more problems than it solves, even if no matter how good you are at your job. So at the end of the day, it's about the team. It's about the team being better as a whole, basically.
So many parallels to going back to when you were captain of the rugby team, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that thing about not being the best player. I'm not the smartest guy in the company. I've got skills, but really, probably what I'm really good at is getting the best out of other people, motivating other people, and helping them work together. And that's no different than rugby. And the that's getting that balance of getting all sorts of different people with very different skill sets, and that's one of the biggest problems with technology companies as well, because there's different skill sets in the technology team, the account management team, and they very rarely sort of see eye to eye, but they do in our business. They work really closely together because that's what we are as a business. In rugby, you can't put 15 wingers on the pitch just because they're really fast. You need a prop who's going to win you the ball.
So we talked about the receptionist
Yeah.
using metrics that really don't perhaps drive the right sort of results. And you touched a little bit on sort of retention as being a really key thing that you kind of focus on. What are the kind of, let's talk about a little bit more about kind of what are the metrics that really matter to you?
I mean, our clients all start off at a certain level. And we can prove to our clients that when you start with TrackBack, your lead follow-up rates were this, and it was this fast, and the quality was X, and over time we've managed to improve it to Y, and you can see a return on investment as a result of that, which you can see very clearly because you can see the increased sales conversion that you're going to get as a result of following up leads more effectively, and they can see that. You can also see that if you take TrackBack away or you remove the focus on certain areas, the performance drops off again. So they know it's not a situation where they can just go, oh, okay, it works now, we can move away. And so there is a kind of a necessity to have that. So as long as we can demonstrate that return on investment to our clients, they're getting something from it. They, within their own businesses, are a success, because actually they're delivering something that's giving them really good ROI that they can prove, which is not always the case within brands. So from that perspective, that's really good. From our perspective, key metrics are we measure things as well. Obviously, we're a company, right? We have to make money, we have to grow, we have to make profit. So we don't shy away from that. We don't actively target individuals to grow the business, but as a business as a whole, I've got responsibility to the owners and the board to make sure that we deliver performance. So we obviously target that. Staff attrition is really important to us. So very low. We have very, very low staff attrition. And we see that as a measure of staff engagement and staff satisfaction with being at the business. Client attrition as well. We measure that's just fundamental. It's so hard to get new clients. There aren't that many of them out there. It's a brand. It's a whole brand for a whole country, right? And sometimes it's a whole brand for Europe. So we work with Ford, we work with Harley-Davidson, like for in all their countries in Europe. So actually, that's incredibly valuable. Those relationships. So which is why our account management is so important. So customer attrition we measure, and we hope that we don't get any. We didn't get any last year, so that was good. In fact, we didn't get any staff attrition last year. No, in 2024, no one left the company or resigned from the company, which was really pleasing. So yeah, I think probably if I was putting it, so happy staff, happy clients, a good level of growth and profitability that's consistent over a significant period of time. And then just on the back of that, a good pipeline of new products, because that's really important. Because if we didn't have that, if I was looking at a blank sheet of paper on our roadmap and thinking, I don't actually know what we're doing next, I would be really worried. But I'm not. So that's good. And a good pipeline of new customers as well. So our sales team work really hard on that. And we've invested quite a lot in marketing, and that's paying dividends. So I'd leave it that. That would be they're what we're looking at from the health of the company. I don't think you can ever really say. I don't think you can ever really say you're a success. I think you can say you're currently successful, but I don't think you can say you're a success because it can change so quickly. So I'm always very wary about
Yeah.
what's coming around the corner and how are we planning for that and making sure we have you know a view of where the threats are coming from, both from a technology perspective and potentially from client attrition perspective.
It's a great answer. Um, if you go back to the Gareth starting out Rover, um, with the Gareth you are today, what's that sort of one piece of advice that you'd give him entering the industry today?
If I was talking about myself, my advice to myself, it would probably be believe in yourself a
Hmm.
bit. I think everyone suffers from imposter syndrome, and I certainly do. And I kind of look around and go, "Why am I like today? Why would anyone actually listen to this?" So I think that's interesting. So for me to actually believe in yourself, I think in general, if I give one piece of advice to anyone going into work at all, that would be do what you say going to do when you said you were going to do it. It's a really simple thing. But we really, as a company, we really work hard at that. And I think as an individual, if you do that, you you're reliable. You're trustworthy. You can people can look at you and go, yeah, that they promised something and they did it. That's something, and it's not as common as it should be.
So, looking forward, say for the next 3 to 5 years, kind of what kind of do you see kind of coming down the line? What's exciting you?
For the automotive industry, I mean, you mentioned that it's challenging for the automotive industry. It is getting more challenging. There's if you take the rise of the Chinese brands, for example, I mean, particularly obviously we're focused in Europe, and that is starting to have a dramatic impact on our on the automotive industry. It's exciting. It's really exciting for us. It's they could be potential clients for us. They're a really interesting and very aggressive brands. They're coming into the market saying we're going to get 5% market share. They all seem to be saying we're going to get 5% market share. They're not adding extra 5% on top of the market,
Hmm.
so they're going to be aggressively taking the market from the existing more traditional brands if they can. Some of them will probably succeed. Some of them definitely won't, as you would expect. But I think that's really interesting, and I think the way they're approaching it and the aggressive approach and the amount of money some of them have to spend in doing it is very interesting, um, and will make it challenging for the current brands. It will make it challenging on price, particularly I think, because they're going to be very price driven, which is going to move the needle a little bit. I think back in time, if you like, where the market was more price driven, where I think brands have gone more slightly away from volume, more to a kind of profitability. EV vehicles, obviously, that focus on EV vehicles, and that I know they've been around for a long time, but actually for some brands they haven't been around that long, and actually the sales mix is still really low for a lot of brands with EV models. We see much longer telephone conversations with EV models. We think actually the telephone's probably more important with EV than with um, ICE cars, because there is more to talk about. There is more to learn for most people. That most people still haven't had an EV car, so the one they're buying is their first one. I haven't owned an EV car yet, so I think that is still a big challenge, and that training of dealers and that communication process and that easing of worries of range and charging points and all those things are still a massive challenge for dealers and brands to get their head around. Some brands are doing a really, really good job of it and have worked really hard at it. Um, but it does require focus. It does require a really specific EV focus. And we see that all the time. And the ones that work hard at it are the ones that are winning.
All right, listen, a few quick fire kind of questions for you now. So, first thing that comes in your head, if you could instantly master any skill, what would it be?
So personally, it would just be play the guitar. So my family's really musical, except for me, and I'm rubbish. And I'd like to be able to do that. from a work perspective, it would be speak a language.
What language?
That's a really great. Honestly, probably French at the moment, and only because in Europe. So for our company, we've got someone based in Spain who's an account director in Spain, and the French in Europe is the least likely to communicate in English by choice, and so it becomes more challenging. So I'd like to be able to speak French. It's also cool.
It is very cool. I'll give you both. I think that's the great answer. Okay, ultimate road trip companion, dead or alive?
David Bowie.
One piece of sci-fi tech that you wish we had right now?
So I think I would, everybody must say time machine. So time machine, I think I'm going to go for, but not a time machine that can take me back to see dinosaurs. Time machine that can take me back, like tonight, I'll be thinking, why didn't I say this? So just a time machine that can take me back a few hours, just so I can say that killer line that you only ever think of when you're kind of sitting on your own afterwards. Go, damn it!
You can always record as a voice note and send it to us.
Edit it in. Yeah.
That's a good answer. Okay, if teleportation was real, where's the first place you'd go and why?
Couldn't be an easier question. I'll be in Australia for the second Lions test on Saturday.
You still got time.
I wish.
Okay, so maybe there's a few clues in the previous answers, but your go-to driving anthem?
Actually, it's not. Probably, I love a shout along to Piano Man by Billy Joel. Love that.
And last one, Marvel superpower of choice.
I'm not sure I'd have a superpower. I'd be Thor. I think everyone should be Thor. Basically,
I can see you now with the hammer walking into the track back office.
I'd be Thor, not just because my wife fancies Chris Hemsworth, I think, but actually just because I think he just had a bit more fun. I think it's just really important to have fun while you're doing what you're doing, and we're at work a lot, right? And so it's important to enjoy it. And I think Thor enjoyed his work, and he celebrated the wins. And he didn't get too angst-ridden about everything until obviously Thanos destroyed half the universe, and then he got quite angst-ridden. But before that, he was pretty cool. So I'd be Thor.
Gareth Thor Thomas, thank you very much for joining us today on Leap Forward. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much.